Hello everyone, Darcinova here. I just read a comment from one of the people who for my second video of why George Lucas should release the unaltered versions of the original trilogy, and I figured this is a subject I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. But thanks to one of my commenters, I think he's inspired me to do this. Thank you. The prequel is a touchy subject nowadays. There's a whiny group of individuals, red letter media, who basically want to throw it out there that everyone hates the prequels. The prequels are terrible. That they should be disregarded and remade. That's what people have been pushing for since Disney bought Star Wars. To be honest, do you really think remaking them would make them better? Let's be honest here. The Force Awakens was not a good movie. It was awful. A big slap to the face to fans of the original trilogy and the prequels, especially the original trilogy. None of this matters. To be honest, the original and prequel trilogies, in my opinion, are the most sacred part of the Star Wars universe. It's one part of Star Wars that shouldn't be fucked with. Not saying the expanded universe, but isn't sacred either. But I'm just saying these are the most sacred aspects of the Star Wars universe. Fucking with that to me is sacrilege. I don't care what you prequel haters say about the prequels. Fucking with that is sacrilege. To suddenly say, oh, the prequels don't count, and then remake them to match what you whiny little fanboys want, not only would be a slap to the face to those people who made those films, I believe it'd be worse than the special editions of the original trilogy. Yes, I'm going there. Because, but let's be honest here, the original trilogy, I think the theatrical cut should be released to the public. But their work hasn't been disregarded completely. Yes, one of the actors, two of them have been, people are not even going to know, did that part, and I think it's bullshit that they don't get credit. But that'd be far worse, because now you disregard an entire legacy that people put about over a decade of their lives to make. No. Remaking the prequel trilogy is would be worse than the special editions. There's no guarantee they'd be better. In fact, I could argue they'd be worse. Because in my opinion, the reason I say the 6-film saga, the original 6, is the most sacred part of the Star Wars universe is because it is the part told by George Lucas himself. It's his version of the story. It's his vision. And I don't want another version of the prequels. Could they have been better? Yes. Should they be remade? Fuck no. If anything The Force Awakens has shown me, remakes are terrible. And this is the movie that got remade. And this last year was a remake disguised as a fucking sequel. It wasn't a sequel. It was a fucking remake. In a fucking reboot. No. Seriously, for those who are looking forward to new movies, why would you want a remake of the prequels? So, we should delay 6 years into advancing the storyline in the new Star Wars universe just so a bunch of whiny little fanboys can see the prequels more in the style of the original trilogy? No! And here's the thing I gotta address. Because there's people that see that anything that isn't the original 3 aren't Star Wars. And that I have to say is fucking ludicrous. What is Star Wars? People claim that it's the original trilogy. Well, I'll tell you what Star Wars is. And this is the definitive answer. Star Wars is a franchise that never goes back, it goes forward. It never reboots. I'm referring to what they did, the expanded universe. Everything is in one universe. You don't go back, you go forward. And to be honest, I already hate Disney and Lucasfilm enough as it is for what they did to the EU. If they trashed the prequel trilogy, what would stop them from doing it to the original trilogy? No. No, 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 no! The prequels should stay as they are. You don't have to like it, but it's the creator's original vision, and having his part of the story thrown in the trash just so a bunch of whiny little fanboys online can get what they want is complete bullshit. No. Remaking the prequels would be a worse move than George Lucas withholding the theatrical versions. Because a whole generation of fans grew up with the prequels, me being one of them, and who are fans of the prequels, and who see the prequels as Star Wars. To be honest, I see the prequels and the originals equally Star Wars. They're the first 6 movies, the original 6. They are the heart of the Star Wars franchise. You remove part of that, you remove whatever's little that's left of George Lucas's legacy. No. 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 I don't want someone else telling the story of Anakin Skywalker. I don't want those fucking assholes at Lucasfilm, especially Papa Hugato, doing their own version of Anakin's, Skywalker's fall to the dark side. No, there should be only one fucking origin. One. How he fell to the dark side. And if you don't like it, well, too fucking bad. Watch fucking Rogue One or Episode 8. Stop fucking bitching about the prequel trilogy, how it should be remade. No, with today's current climate, with all that PC bullshit, it wouldn't even fit with this. I don't want half the saga of the original 6 being, part of this is George Lucas and the rest of it isn't. No. Leave them alone. And there's other things you have to do as well. If you want to remake the prequels, what about those fans of those movies? What about them? What about the people who grew up with the prequels? I don't care what those people at Red Man Leaders say. The prequels are nowhere near as hated as you guys claim they are. They're not. They're flawed movies, yes. Should they get remade? No. Star Wars should move forward, not backwards. Instead of spending time leeching off the past, which they're currently doing with Rogue One, and God knows if Episode 8 is even going to do anything, forge your own identity. That's what Lucasfilm should be doing, forging their own identity. Because what made the original 6 movies great, each trilogy was different. Each trilogy had their own identity. These movies, the originals, you don't need to watch the prequels. In fact, you never have to enjoy these movies. The prequel movies, you don't have to watch the originals. And each movie stands on their own. You can watch Return of the Jedi without watching the other 2. Instead of doing that bullshit that The Force Awakens did. No. I do not want some third-grade actor playing Anakin Skywalker or someone else playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. No. 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 Fuck you, people that want it remade. Because I don't want it remade. I want it to stay as is. To me, the prequel trilogy is as important as the original. It's a sacred part of the Star Wars universe. It should never be touched. Never. Because, in my opinion, if you're going to remake the prequels, you remake the originals too. Out of fairness of those fans. Because I don't believe it's fair to exclude an entire generation of Star Wars fans because a bunch of whiny little 40 to 60-year-old fanboys can't get over the fact, the prequels aren't exactly as I imagined it. And you know what? Everyone had their own interpretation of what the prequels were like. What they would have been. And you know what? Damn it, it's George Lucas's right to have his vision of the Star Wars saga be preserved. The first 6 movies, they're the only movies, in my opinion, in the saga that matter. Fuck the rest of them. I don't care about episode 8 or episode 9 or whatever the hell other movies they're going to release in the future. Leave the first 6 alone. For fuck's sake. Leave the original 6 movies alone. The original trilogy is, especially. Leave them alone. You guys need to get over it. Let it go. Let the prequels go. You have a movie coming out right around the corner. Why do you are still fussing over the prequels? Stop acting like a bunch of whiny little crybaby bitches just because George Lucas didn't make the movie except what you wanted. Fuck you. Art in general, an artist should be able to express what he wants to express and shouldn't have to hinder to a bunch of whiny little fucking assholes because he may offend them. Fuck them. You know what? The original Star Wars trilogy would have never have happened in today's climate. Never. You're lucky you even got the Star Wars franchise in the first place. You're lucky it came out in the decade it did, because today it would never have happened. Because Hollywood is too focused on making money rather than take a chance and create something new and unique that stands out for generations to come. The original Star Wars trilogy. Why is this movie, along with the prequels, why are they so memorable? It's because it's a saga that's defied generations. Even though what I hold in my hand is not the theatrical versions, which I do think those should be released, so the original versions of the original 3 movies are preserved. I believe this movie would have never have existed in today's climate. It would never even happen. Because of people like you. People who can't accept change. People who would rather see the same bullshit. Who care more about nostalgia than actual good storytelling. Because that's exactly what The Force Awakens is. It's a forgettable movie that fucking years from now, doesn't matter how much movies Disney shits out, all but the first 6 movies are going to be forgotten. I guarantee you that. Regardless how flawed the prequels were, I do feel like in the future they will be appreciated when all this hate for them dies and people actually watch them and actually realize they aren't so bad. They're not perfect, but at least they aren't the shit that we ultimately got after Disney bought it. Because the original 6 were made with love. And to claim that the people who made the Force Awakens were made with love and in episode 1 through 3 weren't is ludicrous. You may not like the movies the way George Lucas presented them, but it was the story that he wanted to tell and hit in the way he wanted to tell it. They could have been betterly acted. The script could have been modified so it actually feels more natural. But to be honest, I would rather have the prequels as they are. Because to me, the prequels are sacred, just like the originals. The prequel trilogy inspired an entire generation of writers from the expanded universe. Same thing with the original trilogy. These movies are important because it still has an influence, on pop culture and even other parts of the Star Wars universe, novels, comics. It inspired it. And here's the thing. If you expand your Star Wars fandom outside the movies, the prequel trilogy actually did a lot more good for Star Wars than bad. So many storylines in the expanded universe were open because of the prequel trilogy. We were able to fully explore the Clone Wars. We got the Clone Wars microseries. And I hate this show, but there's those who are fans of it. TCW would have never been made, which is Clone Wars, the Clone Wars for short, had it not been for the prequel trilogy. No. If you truly are a fan of Star Wars, you'll accept the good with the bad. That's what anyone in any franchise does. You don't just demand a studio to toss aside something because you didn't like it. No. Everything, in my opinion, should be in one cohesive universe. And even though I don't think the new canon's cohesive at all, I believe it would hurt the new canon more if they removed the prequels. No. Leave them alone. I've said it many times in this video. Leave them alone. Instead of wasting time going back to the past to appease a bunch of whiny little fanboys, Lucasfilm should do things to actually add new life to the Star Wars universe on the big screen. Do something new that hasn't been done before in a comic or a novel or even on film. Star Wars should be focusing on that, not retelling the same fucking stories that have already been told a decade ago. Now, Star Wars is supposed to move forward, not backwards. Fuck the prequel haters. You hate the prequels so much, I got a suggestion. Don't watch them. Or read the novelizations. But you may be too lazy to read the novels. But that's your two options. Shut the fuck up. Actually, yeah, shut the fuck up and don't watch the movies. Or two, read the novelizations. Enough with the remakes. They should be left alone. I don't care what any of you say. They're sacred to the Star Wars universe as the original trilogy. The original trilogy isn't more important. They're just as important. For without these 6 movies, the Star Wars franchise is incomplete. I would gladly take some of the worst aspects of the expanded universe, some of the worst aspects of the prequels and the special edition changes than have any part of the first 6 movies being fucked with in any way. The originals have been fucked with enough with the special editions. The prequel trilogies should not be fucked with by throwing them out of canon, just like the expanded universe. No. I'll end it with this. A storyteller should be able to tell the story they wanted to tell. They shouldn't have to appease to a mass of people because you guys are too stupid to actually understand the deeper meanings. The prequel trilogies syncs perfectly with the originals. It actually enriches the originals. It actually makes Obi-Wan Kenobi a far deeper character than he would have been had it not been for the prequels. The prequels showed us the fall of Anakin Skywalker. And it is showcased that Anakin at one point, before he was Darth Vader, was the innocent little boy. And he went through a bunch of things in his life that were out of his control. The death of his mother, Anakin made some mistakes. But what makes Anakin's story so great? His redemption story, he gets redeemed by his children. Luke is what ultimately saves his soul from darkness. And ultimately, I feel like changing that story in any fucking way is sacrilege. If Lucasfilm fucks with any of the original 6 movies, I'm done with them for good. Even for new Legends material, I will not tolerate this shit. The original 6 movies is sacred. And you guys can go fuck yourselves if you think otherwise. My commenter on my original trilogy on Altered Version video, I thank you for inspiring me to do this, but I don't think they should be remade. They should be left alone. I'm not going to repeat myself again. I love Star Wars. I love the EU. I love the movies. Love it. I accept the good with the bad. Because to be honest, what makes Star Wars such a unique franchise in the first place? It's like, think of it as it being human. It makes mistakes. And I'm going to use a quote by Grand Admiral Thrawn. An error becomes a mistake if you refuse to correct it. That's the thing that is so great. Star Wars can fix itself. If it makes an error, it can correct it. And Disney and Lucasfilm, an error will become a mistake if you choose to remake the prequels. Leave them alone. If you want to remake the prequels, reboot the entire franchise. Don't fucking touch the prequels and just integrate your version of what the story with George Lucas's version. His whole 6-film saga should be his and his alone. If you want to do your own movies, do it, but don't touch the first 6. Those are the Star Wars movies to me that are the most sacred. That's all I'm going to say. This is pretty much the end of my trilogy regarding the unaltered version. I guess you could consider that the end. Just like George Lucas refusing to give us the unaltered versions in good quality, and fans of the original trilogy see that as sacrilege, touching the original trilogy in any way. While I see touching the prequels is even more sacrilege, because it's George Lucas's story, and changing that, taking out half of his saga just to appease a bunch of whiny little fanboys, to me is worse than the special editions. And I won't stand by it. That is the final straw. As long as Lucasfilm leaves the original 6 movies alone, I'm open to give them my money for new Legends material, for the unaltered versions on Blu-ray, hell, the prequels trilogy on Blu-ray. But I will not do it if they ever fuck with the prequels. Leave them alone. May the Force be with you, and have a nice day, and tell me what you think in the comments below.